Hi guys, good morning. I'm Aditi. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and tendies. And I'm known in the space as Trade for Tendies. And I'm so glad to speak with you all today. Let's start with some brief intros. I work in Web 2. I'm an engineering manager over at Zillow. We do housing. And it's awesome. The mission's great. I like working there. But what I'm truly passionate about is Web 3. For the last year, I've been building and developing on Web 3. I write code on Solana and Near. Last year, I started with leading the developer charge on Solana Monkey Business, or Monkey DAO, which is the community organization. That's my PFP as well. I know all of these people have their own pictures there, but mine's a monkey. And since then, I've advised on a lot of projects on Near and Solana, launched my own project, and recently been a part of Kets and Crack. So that's me. I would love for you guys to introduce yourselves. Let's start with Zack.
All right, yeah, great. I guess am the outlier in this panel, I suppose, here for the piece on how we get these things to
You're
the
dressed
masses.
like that too.
I'm dressed like the outlier. I come from CNBC and Yahoo Finance. I was an anchor and reporter focusing on crypto. I've had the privilege of interviewing a lot of smart people and doing panels, obviously, today with a lot of smart people. But mostly been focusing on how you can leverage NFTs in media to form communities and have a bit of a situation where you can break down the wall between audiences and shows themselves when it comes to ownership and creation. And have quit I guess, I don't know if it counts as a Web 2 world of media, but the traditional world of media to try and figure out what's going on in Web 3. Been working on a project called Trustless Media that we're getting off the ground. Haven't announced much yet, but stay tuned. At Zguz on Twitter, I'll plug that one real quick and pass it along.
My name is Ryoma. I'm one of the co-founders for Makerspace. We're a curated platform to help creators create and sell. We've been around since 2018, and so we've been through a bunch of ups and downs in terms of the crypto cycles. We're doing what we can to innovate and really push NFTs forward. So, we were one of the first platforms to come out with video support and increase file sizes. The first for fiat on-ramps with custody solutions native to the platform. We're also the first one to partner up with a major auction house. And so the $69 million Christie's auction that happened, we were the one that orchestrated and put that together.
My name is Chris. I run a design studio called Kalapa Design. And we originally, when we started, we knew that we wanted to work within sort of the design side of things, but quickly pivoted to doing Web3 and cryptocurrency pretty much exclusively. I literally did not know much about crypto within the last couple of years and realized very quickly that I needed to essentially learn everything I possibly could. So buying into different NFT projects, built my own Bitcoin node, Ethereum node, tried to join as many Discords as possible. And now very quickly we've turned into anything from working with basic NFT projects all the way up to multi-billion-dollar companies that are working on like global corporate finance, governance, and all sorts of different things. So it was weird the other day working on an NFT project and then at the same time also working on a pitch for Interpol. So my life has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years.
Interpol.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll leave that one classified then. So let's jump right into it. What do you guys think is the barrier to onboarding the masses onto crypto? And are NFTs really going to be the way?
Yeah, you know most. You're a platform here. You can tell us what you learned.
I'll start off with like a blanket statement and say education is probably the biggest issue that we're kind of facing with bringing the masses on. And so between that, there's a whole bunch of subsets of technology is an issue and people not understanding digital wallets or cryptocurrency and understanding all the nuances of yielding their own wallet. And so there's additional problems when it comes from a creator and a collector perspective. A creator, they're not understanding how to properly pitch and sell and really run a business. But the interesting thing that we're seeing, especially at Makerspace, is whenever we do releases, especially for influencers, musicians, celebrities, one thing that always comes up as part of that is people are complaining about the environmental factors. And so people don't truly understand what the environmental factors are, but they're actively going out there to complain about it. And so regardless of whether it's on Solana or Ethereum mainnet, it doesn't really matter to the masses because they don't understand the differences around that. So education is a big component to it that I think that we need to work on. But ultimately, if we kind of get really great at talking about the value props for NFTs, all that kind of stuff around education for technology or talking about the environmental factors, all that kind of stuff can kind of go to the sides as long as we have a strong pitch for value prop, which I don't think we are there yet.
Yeah, I think there's so many barriers. Like if you lay them out, there is the whole, you need to learn so much about cryptocurrencies if you're going to be paying with crypto to buy these things. And obviously there's a bunch of, I guess, intermediaries that help if you want to pay in fiat to kind of on-ramp there. But it's all what you talked about around, all right, what exactly am I buying? And I think we've gotten a clearer picture of where the space is moving when it comes to actual ownership and rights around that stuff. But then there's also the trust aspect of a lot of anonymity in the space and not really knowing what exactly the founders want to do, who they are, what their history is. And ironically, I mean, in a trustless system, it still does. I think we've seen with a lot of projects, it still matters. Once you find out someone might have a criminal past, I think your instincts kick in and you say, I'm not so sure about this project anymore. So there are just a bunch of different barriers, and it's interesting to see brands now move into the space to kind of help bring people in, because I think we'd all agree the crypto scene, that sphere, was very different, I think, than maybe the NFT sphere that came in the last couple of years. And brands obviously are trying to, I think, bring on people who may have never touched crypto before. But there are just so many different barriers I think these projects need to answer. And Chris, I mean, the design piece is one that I think also frustrates a lot of people who might be more adjusted and used to kind of Web 2 projects in going through some of these things. Then you hit a Web 3 native page, and it's kind of backwards, I think, in kind of how you funnel people into buying an NFT.
I mean, every single client at some point within the conversation, they will say, oh no, this part is fine, we don't have to worry about it. Our audience will understand. Spoiler alert, they don't understand. Especially when we're onboarding people who are not comfortable with the cryptocurrency side of things. Some people don't have wallets. They need to start from the beginning. Even the vocabulary is something that it is completely foreign from everybody. We try and live by two sort of philosophies with what we're doing with the design side of things, which is what we're doing scalable to 1,000 so that it can scale to the masses? But then the other mindset is, could my grandmother, who goes to the bank to pay for all her bills, actually understand what's going on?
No.
And pretty much the answer is no across the board.
I don't think there are enough grandmas in a lot of these communities. You raise a good point.
We do need a grandma DAO. Anyone?
Grandma Dad.
Just wait for all the derivatives that happen right after. So that was interesting. We were talking about user experiences and thousands of people. And something that I'd like to touch on is diversity and inclusion. So do we think there's enough representation in the Web3 space? And how do we balance that against the desire that people have to remain anonymous?
I'd kind of be curious to get your take on that one, honestly, as the woman up here on the panel, and someone who's coming from Web 2 into Web 3, if it's any better or worse.
Very opinionated. I think representation is important in Web3, and though I read an article in the Wall Street Journal that all of Gen Z wants to be anonymous, it's the new cool. But it is great to have these PFPs that unite us, but our differences is what makes us better and helps each other grow. So I think it is important.
Yeah. I would say from a platform perspective, we don't capture gender as part of the onboarding experience, but anecdotally, I would say that probably 90% of it is males versus the females. So there's a big disparity in terms of who's on there. But when I think about the education and the on-ramp, none of those things are gender specific. We're talking about technology or promotion or the environmental factors. None of that is specific to one gender. And so I think the interesting thing here is that it's probably the source of what's bringing in the people right now that's determining the makeup of this, right?
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about the drops that we do with a lot of the influencers or the musicians, the celebrities, or even the sports teams, there's a ton of sports teams that are coming into this space, And just by the makeup of their fan base, that's probably what's driving the disparity, is that the people coming in are mostly geared towards a male fan base. So like that's something that we need to actively work on, is can we get more brands, can we get more celebrities that have more of a female fan base to come into this ecosystem?
Yeah, I think that's the key there in kind of who you're bringing in, because obviously I think we all know crypto was a white male dominated kind of space, at least when it was early on. The coverage as well, from a media perspective, when we think about investing communities, generally tend to be also kind of male, white dominated. But now with NFTs bringing all kinds of different people in the backgrounds and attachments to whatever, I guess, communities are getting brought into the space with all the new NFTs, I think that that's a huge unlock. And one that's really exciting to see now.
That's nice to hear. Today I read a tweet that NFTs were like handbags for men, and that hit hard. Let's talk about
There's a couple Birkin accounts.
Let's talk about the media for a second. And we see a lot of articles on NFTs now, but most of them are $1 million animal JPEG was sold. So given that's the media coverage, how do we convince regular people to buy in?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a bias to big numbers in headlines. That's just always been the case. And so a lot of the media attention just tends to focus on that because everyone can kind of, I guess their eyes get big when they think about EA making a lot of money. It's just rags to riches, and that one always is kind of sensationalized a little bit. The media doesn't really want to cover the flip side to that, which is this guy lost a bunch of money, although it should equally be covered. The problem is a lot of people don't want to talk about that when they are on the losing end. But I think it's pretty important. I'm pretty sure everyone up here has probably been scammed at one point in an NFT mint. I'm not
very
afraid.
safe.
I'm not afraid to say it's happened to me. I think we need to be more honest about some of that stuff.
It's a rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage.
You gotta go through
and
it.
it's sad to say that that's a rite of passage, because who in their right mind from the mainstream would say, oh, yes, a rite of passage would be fun to get scammed out there. I want to join this community. But I mean, from the media coverage now, there's a lot of cool projects that I think make it easy to understand. Zedrun's one that I've focused on a lot, just because it's like, okay, I can buy a horse, I can race a horse, I can breed a horse, I can own this thing. Constitution DAO was a phenomenal project just to kind of show how quickly you can raise money and form a community around something as silly as just wanting to buy a replica Constitution. But there's a lot of those little kind of examples that I think the media latches on to kind of help bring the masses along and help wrap your heads around what was a very abstract thing and started out as just art, basically. And now I think we're seeing all of these possibilities, and it's kind of difficult when you're talking to maybe one's an investor audience, maybe one's just straight up music audience. It's how do you communicate the technology properly, I guess, is the tricky piece.
That's a great take. And talking about losing money, it's a down bad market. A lot of people say the beer cycle is going to last for a while. Not me, but a lot of people. And we've seen this before in '08. Is there anything that we can do to still convince people to buy these coins and NFTs? Have we learned anything? Any insights you guys have?
Yeah, I guess I can talk about that. So this is sort of our second go-through of this down market. So like in 2018, we sort of went through that same period of people leaving the crypto space because there was that heightened around all the coins and NFTs, crypto kitties coming out. And so from that period, what it did was it shook out a lot of the people that were just very loosely interested in this space, but all the core people they stayed around and they start to build. And I think the same thing will happen this time around as well, is that there was a huge hype cycle last year around NFTs, and right now we're going through this period where it's probably going to shake out a lot of people again. But there's going to be a lot more people that are core around like the believing the future of NFTs and building around that. And this core, I think, is much bigger than where it was before. So long term, I think we're in a much better place where we were last year, and I'm pretty happy about where the growth is. Like, when I first started the company, and I think about like where things would be like 5 to 10 years, I would never imagine the growth that we have experienced in for 4 years right now. I would expect this to happen probably like 10 years down the road. So. Yeah, I think we're in a good place right now, and even though things are going down, it's going to go up at some point.
I hope it goes up at some point. Mostly because I'm about to launch, this thing, and if we're launching into a bear market, it's a little sketch. But I do think, the one thing that's interesting about NFTs and kind of the pricing, and even in a bear market, which we don't have a lot of days of data to pull from yet, but might be that they seem pretty stable. And it's kind of like, because you have the floor price and you have people who believe in a project and you have a self-selecting community, and I don't think it crashes as quickly as I think a lot of people would have expected, because they see speculation in buying something that you're not really sure what it's going to be, but you actually have a lot of people who are drawn to, I guess, the mission, or in case maybe the art, and don't want to just dump, I guess, as quickly as maybe some people would have thought.
That's true. This is the time to build and stick with the communities
I
that
hope.
you love. Yeah.
I hope so.
What do you think makes a good user experience for a community or an NFT, and how do you improve that? Do we have those today, or are those mythical creatures?
I think they're in the works. I struggle on a regular basis with how comfortable anybody can be with certain types of platforms, or like a minting process, or even OpenSea, for example. Like it just changed the other day with the new visual upgrade, and a lot of people were sort of caught off guard by that. So I think there needs to be a more consistent effort on sort of the combination of understanding which device people are utilizing, because I think we can all agree that crypto is not really mobile centric as of yet. I do think that's going to improve with the new standards that are coming out for iOS, to be able to add more plugins, add more certifications and things. I'm not sure if Android is sort of on the ball yet, but we'll see. But I think bridging mobile and then the desktop experience, and then having more of a conducive workflow that people can understand to go from step to step to step. Like realistically, if someone has nothing or no knowledge of crypto and you go through a standard mint process, just the basis of you're going to have to click the button twice, once to sign, once to confirm that you actually want to do this. So from like the most basic level, those sort of things need to be taken into consideration. And if you look at some of the better apps, non-crypto apps that are out there, they're going to walk you through that process, sort of hold your hand a little bit, help you understand, have prompts, have hover states, have an understanding of, no, you don't have to feel like this is a difficult thing to do. I think that's going to, once those types of things become commonplace and people start to understand a little bit more of the vocabulary and the process and how things work, then we can start really seeing an adoption of people coming in who maybe are coming from Web 2, or coming from the stock market, or coming from the art world, or who knows.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important, because it costs extra money and effort to do that, and it's a little bit risky because most NFT projects are targeting the Web3 native people right now, and they can probably get what they want just focusing on that market. But if you're thinking about bringing on the masses, that's huge, and it's an extra lift. It's one that we put in because I do want my grandma involved in our project, and it's extra effort, but I think it's really the only way that we get there.
But every single client that I'm talking to, though, they say, we want our audience to be the first adopters, and we want it like proof of concept and everything, but we want as many people utilizing the platform as possible. So when you break it down and you sort of explain it back and say, this is what you really want if your end goal is to have hundreds of thousands or millions of people using your platform, these are the things that we need to understand from the start. We can't just sort of put this out here and go, it's fine, a spreadsheet is fine, they'll understand it, it's all right. It's not okay. Spreadsheets are not okay.
You guys are going to will Grandma DAO into existence.
I think we finally did something here. This is the most efficient panel I've been on. Grandma DAO will exist.
Right?
Well, I hope not. So, but thank you for coming out to listen to us talk about this stuff. I, for one, am very excited to onboard the masses, because I'm tired of each other just using each other as exit liquidity at this point. So we need more people. Yeah, I'm great for attendees. If you guys ever want to talk about monkey JPEGs or Solana, please reach out. And yeah, thank you guys for chatting with me.
Yeah, thank you. At Zguz, Trustless Media, keep your eyes peeled for entertainment and projects around community.
All right, that's a good pitch.
I try my best. Thanks, Aditi. Thanks, guys.